I think that concludes number 13. Is it lunchtime? No, where are we at? Okay, next up is item number 14. We'll have David Smith, our education leadership specialist, come up, and this is to revise Utah educational leadership standards. So who have we got speaking on that? Hey, well, let's just move on to the next one while they're coming in. Keep this thing going, and now my computer's. Next up, we're going to go to 15, and then we'll come back to 14. School fees task force. That's in our packet. Well, okay. Where we're at in this is in your packet, and I'm not. It's in board docs. The board previously asked that I put a school fees task force together and bring back the scope of work and timeline for approval. I've included the composition also, proposed or draft. It's work in art. There's a scope of work. Timelines, I can speak to it, but I know you guys know how to read, and we're basically putting a 15-member school task force together to address several issues. One's a 1994 permanent injunction. There's a Utah code section, 53G7, 501 through 505. There's our board rule, R277407. We'll also discuss other applicable rules. Incorporated in this is our USBE school fees audit and other related audits, if applicable, knowing we all know that OLAG is doing their audit that will be probably completed sometime in July. So in here, I tried to put as much detail as I can, but not limit the task force. So in here you'll see where we're, some of the scope is which may include, because there may be other things that come from it, and then of course we'll come back with recommendations addressing all those issues to the board. I'm trying to keep this condensed. There's a timeline section there. The meetings will be held approximately over a 3-month, probably a 3 to 4 month period of time, with meetings that we're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12 meetings. Probably going to be more towards the 12 over this period of time. And so is there any questions? What's before the board, I guess, is a motion to approve the scope of work and timeline for the task force, and answer any questions regarding. What number are we on? We are on 15. Okay. The lights have come on. Board Member Hanson.
I move that we approve the scope of work and timeline for the task force on school fees.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion to the motion. Board Member Lear.
Does that include the composition too? I have one addition to the composition, which may be minor. I don't know. I think there should be a teacher on it. There's no teachers.
Okay. The direction that was given in the board meeting was for me to bring forward was the scope of work and the timeline, not the composition of the board. And so it's, and take it under advisement as we're trying to go through there. But you can certainly
should I make a motion, or? It's just not part of what the board told you to do. So who did this composition thing then?
I worked with staff and looked at stakeholders to say, okay, if we're going to address all these issues, so I, your chair, working with our legal and staff just to make sure there's other representation. Plus, there was a lot of different associations and group lobbying, trying to be on the task force, and so
I just want a
That's what I-
teacher. I just want a random teacher, not a representative of anybody or anything. But I
okay.
think
I can certainly take one board member off and find a teacher.
I'd take off a legislator and put a teacher. I don't know that you had taken. Can you have 16? I mean, there's magic 15 number? Or?
Nothing magic about 15.
Yeah.
The more it's difficult. If you'd
I think a teacher would give you insight because a teacher could tell you differently than an administrator even, or a superintendent, how sometimes fees are charged and come up in a classroom context.
If I might, as I was contemplating that, and that was part of multiple discussions, you'd say, are you going to get a teacher in a junior high, middle school, high school, because it's all a little different. Are you going to get
Somebody who
you're going to
deals
get a
with
teacher that's more pro on the arts or something? There's so much variety.
There is, but I think I think any teacher would give you a teacher perspective that you would not get otherwise, is my opinion.
Okay, we wouldn't get that from a principal.
Not
or,
necessarily. I think,
And one that deals with fees.
I think
March.
712, yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we have a
Well, they
motion?
shouldn't be
If you want
charged
to,
anything at all.
if we have a motion to
That's-
approve and it's seconded, are you proposing an amendment to include a teacher?
Well, I think there should be a teacher on there,
Okay, so is that your motion?
yes.
Okay, so I just want to move this forward. Okay. Is there a second?
It's outside the latitude that the board gave you latitude to do already.
Well, I understand.
So I guess you can.
Decide not to have a teacher or one.
She can just, it doesn't
Okay,
need to-
well, I just want to accommodate him, but you gave me the latitude to stack this. I can take that under consideration.
It doesn't need to,
So
it doesn't need to be a motion. so-
I don't need a motion. I'll strongly consider that. Okay. Well, I try not to do whatever I want, but, because I don't get what I want, but, okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Board Member Wright?
I want to vote on this amendment, and then I have other comments.
Well, we're not amending it. It's taken under consideration because it,
A few things. I think it would be helpful if you could maybe assign staff or other people to also look at what other states are doing, best practices in other states. Maybe a short survey, because I'm positive this problem's been dealt with in other states. We're not inventing the wheel here.
okay, take that under consideration.
And the next thing, I see something interesting called summer activity fees, and that could mean a lot. Myself and some other constituents are concerned about summer camps or camps that may not be with the high school, but the high school coach is running. And everybody knows if you don't go to those camps or play on the club teams, you can't really compete. You know, and so where do we draw the line on that kind of behavior, including even out-of-state trips? Let's say, okay, the fees are only $1,000 to be on the basketball team, but if you can't pay $3,000 to go on this trip to New York City to compete in a basketball tournament, you know, you're not really part of the team.
I believe every fee that possibly can be collected, directly or indirectly, passing through a school will be discussed
Okay,
in the beginning of this.
that's my
No,
concern.
we don't. We want to turn over every rock
Good, okay, that was my concern, thank
with
you.
no exclusion. Any further questions or comments? Well, then let's vote. On the motion is to approve the scope of work and timeline of the task force. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, voting is unanimous.